Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, well, I've got a very nice new Dusknoir to show you. And I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, this one's kind of fun. I mean, to be fair, Dusknoir tend to be. Dusknoir, if there's something we can usually say about them, they've got an ability, and even if it's not great, it's gonna be fun. Though this one's got a little bit of a chance. Now, our translation here does come from the lovely David Hockman over at Rappelman TCG, though shout out to the lovely Joe from Cerebi.net. And if we have a look at the basics here, it's got 160 HP. And this is good. This is the top level of Stage 2s we expect in the Sun and Moon era. Started off with Dragonite, back in the Sun and Moon base set. It's nice. Retreat cost to free, we're not a fan because it means you can't use buff padding. It means you can't search it out with Pokemaniac. There seem to be loads of Pokemon I'm looking at lately with a retreat cost to free, and they don't make me happy. What does make me happy, however, is a resistance to fighting. That's nice. Because you see, fighting Pokemon like Buzzwole are everywhere at the moment, and Pikachu and Zekrom is great and is weak to fighting, which means people are more likely to play fighting, so it's a nice resistance to have. And honestly, the weakness to darkness now is kind of fine. By the time this comes out, Zoroark is going to have rotated, and that really was the darkness Pokemon you feared when you had darkness weakness, so yeah, let's do this. As a psychic Pokemon, I mean, you're hitting weakness on a bunch of tag team GXs like Marshadow and Machamp that generally don't see much play. But you do have access to Spell Tag here, which in the very, very near future is going to start seeming really quite gosh darn good. But what does it do? Well, as I said, it's a Dusknoir, so of course it's got a fun little ability. And the ability says that if this Pokemon is active and is KO'd by damage from an opponent's attack, you put 4 damage counters on your Pokemon in any way that you like. And if that sounds familiar, it really should. It's Spell Tag. It is literally Spell Tag as an ability. Although what's really cool about this is, it's Spell Tag as an ability on a Pokemon that can use Spell Tag. So now if this gets KO'd, you put 8 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon in any way that you like. It's kind of fun. And weirdly, we've seen a lot of what I like to refer to as spiky armor Pokemon and cards in the recent past. We've seen Giant Bomb that when attached to a Pokemon, if it would take 180 damage or more, you put 10 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon, though that one does get discarded at the end of the turn. We've seen Slacking, who clearly was the designed partner for Giant Bomb, that when you attack, you put 4 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. And we've even seen a Sableye that has an attack that then, if it gets damaged the next turn, you put 8 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. This is something that has been coming around a little bit. Now, this does need to be differentiated from Slacking in 2 very important ways. Number 1, Slacking is every time it is damaged. This is when it is KO'd. So in theory, Slacking can keep doing this all game while you sit there and heal, whereas this is kind of a one-shot deal when you get KO'd. To be fair, you're talking a single-prize Pokemon. If you don't play any GXs, we're talking potentially 6 lots of this ability in one go, which is kind of cool. Also, this is the kind of thing that can lead to draws, because you KO and then you put damage on the Pokemon and then you see what happens. Yeah, we could get some draws out of this, ladies and gentlemen. Spiky armor and the like does lead to natural draws, unfortunately. So, this can spread damage. And it doesn't spread the most amount of damage ever, but it spreads a fair amount of damage. Because you see, the other big difference between this and Slacking is that Slacking puts 4 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. This lets you put 4 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon in any way that you like. So you could put 2 on one, 2 on another, 3 on one, 1 on another, 1 on each of 4 Pokemon. Yeah. This can add up fairly quickly, and obviously here you really want to be playing around with a Stadium Shrine of Punishment that puts 1 damage counter on each of your opponent's EX or GX Pokemon between turns. I mean, it also puts 10 damage on each of your EX and GX Pokemon between turns, but any deck where you're really relying on Shrine of Punishment really shouldn't be playing a whole bunch of EX and GX Pokemon. That entirely defeats the point. And clearly I'm thinking of playing this with Spell Tag. I'm dreaming of a world in which Dusknoir gets KO'd and all of a sudden you're dropping 8 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon in any way that you like. And remember that we're running out of gusting effects post-rotation. That means that your opponent won't have stuff like Guzma, and they're way more likely to have to actually take out the active and therefore take this damage. We did look at Great Catcher, I'm hoping yesterday if the schedule holds, and Great Catcher is great if you want to gust an EX or a GX off the bench into the active. But if you're not playing any EXs or GXs, and this is a Shrine of Punishment deck it seems, and in a Shrine of Punishment deck you don't really want to be playing any of those, then there's nothing for your opponent to gust and Great Catcher becomes useless. It's kind of fun. I don't know if the ability alone is a reason to play this Pokemon. I will say it's very good, but the problem is, can you really just sit there waiting for it to be KO'd and doing damage? Honestly, probably not. But there is a single energy attack here that can help you along your way very, very nicely. It does 60 damage, but next turn, it does 120. Some of you might think this also looks familiar, and it should. It is literally Metagross's attack. The Metagross that we got back in Celestial Storm, yeah, it is the exact same attack. It is a single coloured energy on a stage 2 that does 60 this turn and 120 the next. Incidentally, just like with Metagross, it doesn't go 60, 120, 60, 120, 60, 120. It goes 60, 120, 120, 120, 120, 120. For as long as you're active. And yeah, your opponent can muck around with gusting effects to try and stop this, but remember, gusting effects are not something that you're really going to be too worried about, especially in decks that don't play EXs and GXs when the rotation hits. So we're good. We're fine. And this is okay. Realistically here, you're looking at a pseudo 2-hit KO. So over 2 turns, you're doing 180. That's enough to KO something like a Blacephalon, a Dedenne, etc. But then you add in Shrine of Punishment, and you add in the Spell Tag and ability when you get KO'd, and really, you're looking at nearer like 290, 300. You hit 60, Shrine of Punishment goes up to 70. After your opponent's turn, Shrine of Punishment goes up to 80. You then hit for 120, and that goes up to 200. At the end of your turn up to 210, your opponent KOs you, takes 8, goes up to 290, Shrine of Punishment 300. Now look, that's an awkward way to get to 300, but what I'm saying is this is a pseudo 2-hit KO. It's not a 2-hit KO in I do 120, I do 120, Pikachu and Zekrom goes down, but the 60 plus the 120 plus the Shrine of Punishment plus the Spell Tag plus the ability will get you there. What worries me slightly is that Metagross has seen essentially no play in serious competition since it came out, and that lets you use Steven's Resolve without your turn ending. That's got a really good ability. But I always worried that Metagross didn't do quite enough damage. Maybe this can. Maybe when you build in Spell Tag and the ability, it really can. I don't think this is a phenomenal Pokemon. I think it's got a decent attack, and it's got a really nice ability that pairs really nicely with Spell Tag, but is only relevant when you get KO'd, and that's kind of where the problem comes in. You get to decent damage after your opponent takes a KO, and if you're trading non-GX KOs for GX KOs, that'll work quite nicely. But especially against other non-GX decks, it might not work. Having said that, maybe it's spreading enough damage, it will work. Either way, I'm giving it between 3 and 4 Wossies. We don't give half Wossies. That would be barbaric. I like it, it's fun, I love the ability. I worry it's going to end up like Metagross and just not do enough damage. But I would be very interested to know what you think about this. So please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where we talk about games that don't even have Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.